In this video, I'll show you how to set up the Obsidian MCP server so that you can talk to your notes using Claude Desktop. By the way, I put all of the instructions from today's video into a PDF, which you can get free access to by signing up for my weekly email newsletter. So I'll leave a link to my newsletter in the video description, and you can go ahead and sign up if you're interested. Now, there's a few options right now for MCP Obsidian servers, but this is the one that I've selected, and this is what I've got my money on. It's got 1,000 stars right now, and it's available on PyPI as MCP-Obsidian. And I like it because it interacts really simply using the Obsidian local REST API. So I'll show you how to install that plugin and set it up with this server. And if I scroll down, then I'm going to find something called Published Servers Configuration, and this is what we're going to use. So I'll focus on the MCP part first, and then I'll show you how to get the local REST API up and running. So I'm going to open up Claude Desktop Application, and then I'll open up the settings. And inside of here, I'm going to go to Developer and click Edit Config. And my MCP config is in this Claude Desktop config.json. So I'll open that up, and this has to be valid JSON. And how this works is I want to put this entire sort of code into here. So I'm going to paste that in. And this looks good, valid JSON. The only thing missing right here is going to be our Obsidian API key. So if I was to save this, close out of Claude, and I'll show you what's going to happen. Check out all this error that we're getting. The first thing to address is this Obsidian API key. So let's get this going by installing this Obsidian REST API community plugin. If I just go ahead and click on this, it's going to take me to the source code for this plugin, and it's really straightforward to install this inside of Obsidian. So I'm going to open up the Obsidian app, and down here in the settings, I'm going to go to community plugins, then I'm going to browse, and I'm going to search for the REST API, and it's this one here by Adam Codington, and I'll install that, and I'll enable it. And now if I go to the options, we have some instructions on how to access, and in particular, there's an API key that we're going to need to copy. So I'll grab that, and this is what we need to paste into the Claude settings. So I'm going to go back to my Claude config here, and I'm going to paste that API key in. And so this instructs our server, when it tries to talk to MCP Obsidian, it's going to use this API key in order to properly be able to access the vault that we have it set up on here. So at this point, I'm going to save this and attempt to run this again. And in order to do that, I need to close Claude Desktop and reopen it. Now I'm still getting errors up here, and it's saying MCP Obsidian spawn UVX. The problem is on my computer, this command UVX doesn't actually work. And I'll show you what I need to do for that. You might be up and running already, but if I type UVX, I do have that installed. I should also just be able to type UVX MCP Obsidian. That will go ahead and actually pull this from PyPI. So if I go back to my internet over here, when I type UVX MCP Obsidian, it attempts to fetch this repository. And that's what's happening with Claude Desktop. It will actually run this command every time that it loads in order to load this MCP server. And by the way, installing UV is really straightforward. You don't actually need to install UVX. You just want to install UV, and it comes along with it. So you can run this on macOS or Linux. That's how I installed it, and there's a Windows command here. Right, so you've got UVX, but maybe this still isn't working. And how I got this working is I'm just looking at the actual full path to UVX. And for me, it's in here, and this is in my path variable. However, it's not being picked up by Claude Desktop. So for me, what I need to do is go into the settings, and in here, I edit config, open this file up, and I need to paste the full path to UVX to get this working. And now this should work. So I'm going to save that, and I'm going to close out of Claude Desktop. And when I restart it, we shouldn't get any errors. And I can see this little search and tools button. And when I come down, I have access to MCP Obsidian. Great, so let's give this a spin. Okay, have a quick look inside of my vault and let me know what's going on in there. So this is running through Claude for Sonnet, and I just have the free plan. And here we can see we're getting a request to use this integration list files in Vault from the MCP Obsidian server. And we're actually seeing what data is being sent over in the request for this. And there's no data. We're just like, what's going on in here? So I'm just going to allow once, or allow always. That's fine. So that will allow that tool to run always, but I'm going to get prompted for other tools. And now it's seen that there's a directory called hubs, and it wants to list those files, and it's passing this request in. And since I've approved that always, it went ahead and kicked off a few other requests. It's looking at notes folder, it's looking at the templates folder, and you can also see the responses, what data is coming back from that. So for example, the response from list files and directory returned an array of strings for all of these folders inside of my notes directory. And based on that, Claude's happy with the information, and it's giving me a structured overview of my vault. Thank you for watching, and if you've got this far and enjoyed the video, please leave me a like and consider subscribing. These things really help me a lot on YouTube and allow me to keep making content. Now, the vault that I'm looking at here is my Second Brain notes repository with all of my programming notes. I have a popular video about my Second Brain note-taking system, and that's what I'm showing here. It's how I take programming notes when I want to remember stuff. So I could say something like, add all of this to a top-level index file and put that inside of my vault. So I'm expecting a new file to appear in here, but let's see what Claude Desktop's done. So it's creating an index file, and now it's asking me, okay, can I go ahead and make that? Here's the file. This is actually being sent to the MCP server from the MCP client, which is Claude Desktop. So it's like, hey, I'm making a request to this MCP Obsidian server. I'm going to send all of this data in here. This is the file that I want to go ahead and create. Let's go make that. And it's calling this Obsidian append content function. So I've just said approve always, which means I've just given this MCP tool access to always add data to my vault. So it's gone ahead and added this index file, and it's done. It's already updated, but now Claude's just spitting out a bunch of tokens about what it did. It kind of provides a little summary of what just happened. So this is pretty powerful already, right? How cool is that? It indexed my whole vault. Oh, and it's actually indexed a lot of my notes directly in here. That's pretty cool. All right, let's see how it does with searching. Show me notes about sending an email with Python. Here we're running a query, Obsidian simple search, and we get a response back. And now we're getting file contents from a note we found called stmp send email. All right, cool. So it gives the file path and it's getting the contents. Hey, by the way, I've just started using MCP Obsidian, so if you have workflows that you like, let me know those in the video description below, because I'm trying to figure out how to use this thing. But let me walk through exactly how this works, because I find MCP fascinating from an engineering perspective. So we have Obsidian simple search function called. This is a tool on our MCP server. And the query is email Python send. That's what the LLM determined it should search based on my question. And then we're returning a bunch of data about what files had that information in it and what chunk of the file was the match from that file. So super powerful search that actually ran really fast as well. And now based on the result of that, it found what it was looking for, and it says, okay, based on that search, I actually want the full contents of this particular file. And here we can see we have a request from the client, which is Claude Desktop. Hey, get me all the data in this file. And now we have a response from the server back to the client. And all of this response data, this is the file content, it just gets dumped into the context of the LLM. And the LLMs basically just needs to figure this out now and provide the answer. And presumably this would be what I need to know. So obviously this actual response isn't very helpful, because I'm like, well, what is test email.py? I probably should have been more specific. Can you actually show me that file itself? I want to see all the Python code. Cool. So presumably this is the literal contents of my note, is what Claude Desktop's telling me. So it's actually telling me verbatim the exact contents that I'm asking for inside of this note. So in other words, this is directly interfacing with my Obsidian, and I'm able to actually talk with my notes, which is really cool. Right. So I have a lot of notes in here on BigQuery. And you can see these guys here. So I want to try and search in some of these notes, but a lot of these notes are really big. So at this point, I expect Claude to start having some problems with context size. I need to optimize a BigQuery table using clustering and partitions. Find me a bunch of relevant information on that from my vault and explain some considerations around this. By the way, in this video, I'm using Aqua for voice-to-text transcription. There's a free version which you can try out, and if you like it, I have a link down in the video description for 25% off the pro version of this tool. So check this out. Claude hit the maximum length for this conversation. Please start a new conversation. And that happened immediately. Like all we did was trigger this search and then we got this response. And look at the size of this, all this content that got dumped back to us. And this immediately filled up my entire context window with Claude before it could even attempt to do any more work on that. Okay, let's see if we can do any sort of workaround. I'm gonna say only pull the top match result. So I'm hoping that there's going to be some sort of, so now we're setting context length to 200, but looks like that didn't work either. I've immediately hit the maximum length for this conversation. Now at this point, I've got a few options for you. The first one is to try Cursor. It supports MCP and you can talk with a variety of models through their APIs. Even though this will work, it's not exactly the use case that Cursor was designed for, so I don't really like that solution. The second solution is to use the OpenAI desktop application. However, as of time of recording, that does not support MCP. I do expect it to come in the near future, so I'm just including that in the video. But there's a third option, and it's totally free and it works today, and you can use local Ollama models to talk with Obsidian MCP. And how you do that is a tool called MCP Host. So if you want to see how to set that up, I'm going to show you that in the video linked right now. And if you're running on limited hardware constraints or you just want the best access to the best models to talk with your notes, MCP Host also supports OpenAI. So you can use GPT-4o Mini, for example, to talk with your notes. So if you're interested in doing that and you want to see some cool local command line tools in use with Ollama and local models, yeah, just click on the video right here and that's what I'll talk about. Thank you for watching and namaste.